So here is a limiting reagent problem that we did in class, and this will help you do today's online homework. So the problem says, what is a limiting reagent when 80 grams of copper reacts with 25 grams of sulfur? So first, let's make the mole roadmap. So we have mole and mole. You can put liters, grams anywhere around it. So on the left side is always your reactant. Copper and sulfur are your reactants. On the right side is always your product. And in this case, we only have one product, so you can write that there. So for both of them, what you're going to do is you're going to go from grams of the reactants. You want to make into grams of copper 2 sulfide. So here's a map you have to take. You have to start from grams, make into moles of your reactants, then make into moles of your product, then make into your grams of your product. So let's first start with grams of copper. So for grams of copper, we're starting out with 80 grams. The mole roadmap, you want to make it into moles of copper, then make it into moles of Cu2S, then make it into grams of Cu2S. On the bottom is whatever you had on top. So I'm going to put moles of copper on the bottom, then moles of Cu2S on the bottom. Then fill in the numbers. On the bottom here should always be 1, or it should be empty. There should never be anything on the bottom, or you can put in 1. Moles to grams, you look up in the periodic table. For every 1 mole, there's 63.55 grams. I found this from the periodic table. Moles to moles, you look at your equation. Next to Cu2S, there's no number there, so that's where 1 goes. Next to Cu, you see the number 2. That's where 2 goes. Grams to moles, look up in your periodic table. It's going to be 159.1 over 1. Multiply across, divided by everything on the bottom. Put in your calculator correctly, you're going to get exactly 100 grams of Cu2S. So, theoretically, if you had started with 80 grams of copper, you could make 100 grams of Cu2S. But now let's see, if you had started off with 25 grams of sulfur, how many grams of Cu2S could be created? So we're going to do the same process. We're going to start from grams of your reactant, make into moles of your reactant, which in this case is sulfur. Then we're going to make into moles of Cu2S. Then make into grams of Cu2S. On the bottom is whatever you had on top and the left. Then moles of S. Then moles of Cu2S. Then fill in the numbers. Grams and moles, look up in the periodic table. 1 mole, there's going to be 32 grams. Moles to moles, look up in your original equation. Next, so next to both of them, you're going to write the numbers 1. Grams to moles, look up in your periodic table. It's 159.1 for every 1 mole. Check to make sure you did it correctly though, because just in case you didn't do it correct the first time. Then multiply across, divide by what's in the bottom, and then you're going to have the answer come out to be 124 grams of Cu2S. Now, however much the smaller number is for your product, this is how much is actually being produced. We don't have enough amount that can ever be produced, because with this small amount of copper, this can be produced. So we have a lot of sulfur left over. We're going to have some sulfur left over. From that sulfur, this is how much could be created, but we don't have enough copper, so this much is never created. So you should cross it out right away. From there, we know that copper is going to be your limiting reagent. Sulfur is your excess reagent. This is how much is created. And then from here, let's figure out how much sulfur is really left over. So we're going to start with how much got created. we got 100 grams of Cu2S. This is how much there is in the end. We want to figure out, to make this amount of copper sulfide, how much sulfur was used. So let's go backwards. So now, when you look at the mole roadmap, we're going to go backwards. We're going to go from grams of Cu2S, then make into moles of Cu2S, then make into moles of sulfur, then make into grams of sulfur. So let's write those on the top. So we're going to make this into moles of Cu2S, then make it into then make it into moles of S, then make it into grams of S. Then, whatever you had on top here, write on the bottom. Whatever you had on the top here, write down the bottom. Whatever you had here, write down the bottom, then fill in the numbers. Grams to moles, look it up in the periodic table. It's going to be 159.1. Oh, sorry, I put it in the wrong place. 159.1. This is going to be 1. Next to moles is always 1. Moles to moles, look up in your original equation, and we kind of had it already here. S and Cu2S, the mole to mole ratio is 1 to 1. Grams to moles, we found that already too. For every 1 mole, there's 32 grams. So multiply across 100 times 32 divided by 159.1. And then you're going to get 20.113 grams of sulfur. In the sulfur. To create 100 grams of Cu2S, we only use this much of sulfur. So subtract that from how much you had, 20.113 grams sulfur. Subtract the two numbers, and that's how you're going to figure out how much you have in excess. So your excess is 4.886, and then put it into the correct number of significant figures, which in this case is going to be 3. So your final answer is going to be 4.89 grams. This is how much you have in excess.